Okay, so now on to the true sins of episode 2 and 3. So these episodes, this is quite interesting, Alex. Remember when you suggested we do the March Madness? Virtually none of the worst moments that made it into the final, I think, 32 came from these two episodes. So, of all the shit moments of the show, we distilled them down to final 32 from 164. But by the time people had a chance to vote a couple rounds, nothing came from episode 2 or 3.
I thought
Which
Matt being a grave robber, the barmaid. Um,
I don't think
I
those
think I
lasted
think
to
a couple of
32.
those were pretty well received. I mean, there were some pretty unfavorable matchups early in the tier.
Yeah, the
Maybe.
Tumblr barmaid ran into just a juggernaut. I forget which one it
It's probably like
was.
the
I think it
binary
might have been the
magic.
ungendered magic
Yeah,
system is the one it ran into.
So
The
it ran
Tumblr
into
bar
the
scene
ultimate.
would
just round one fight.
So maybe there was some errors with the seating, but that's neither here nor there. That's March Madness for you. But what was very clear is that episodes 1 and 8 were heavily overrepresented as being the worst ones.
Yeah.
2 and 3 are getting a bit of a pass. I went through and I timed this out a little bit, but in episode 2 at least, it's only 50 minutes, 52 minutes long total, and about 4.5 of those are literally them traveling on horses without saying anything.
Yeah.
So 10% of the runtime are things that you don't really have a chance to discuss about. And then at the same time, because we started switching to these 6-part reviews, we really delve deep into basically everything. And I don't think there's a lot that we haven't said. That said, I hate these episodes, but in large part, it's about the things that we didn't get.
Yes.
So I
Stuff that
put
was
some
cut.
slides together here to kind of remind viewers of what was passed over. And at the time that these episodes came out, there was a lot of hopium, there was a lot of copium. If people criticized episodes 2 and 3 right on November 20th or November 19th when it came out, or the day after, saying, "Why didn't we get this? Why didn't we get that?" The refrain or the rebuttal back was, "Well, you'll see, it's coming, it's coming. We'll get that eventually." So we didn't get the Drakkar kind of out of the two rivers. We didn't get the Murdral using more than just the Trolloc Shadow Spawn. We then didn't get, and we discussed kind of at length how this made the Terran Ferry scene completely ridiculous, but let's just go from there. We didn't get Barrelon, and that's my next slide here. So we didn't get the encounter with Dane Bornhald, me, and the other White Cloaks. Alex,
I
can you
guess
flip ahead?
just running back to taking it back to the drag car.
Oh, sorry.
Why? Of all the
Like,
things
why
to
not?
skip, yeah, of all the things to skip on, you know, a giant fucking dragon looking thing, just copy and paste the Nazguls from Lord of the Rings and just have them, sitting on top of a mountain roaring. You know,
I
fantasy
think
fans
they
like
I
that
think they
shit.
look more like
It,
kind of gargoyles. I mean, this is a good picture of it, I guess. The flying
yeah.
monkeys from
No, but this is a good point.
Totally agree
They
that that's
took
what they
the
look
time
like.
in the show for Moraine to say there are worse things than Trollocs in the world. They took the time to make that point.
would have been great to have a Drakkar scream right after she said that. And then like
Yeah, I
maybe
know.
just, if you just periodically had one flying across the moon, like those types of things, like
It would have required
a little
effort.
low swoop at them while they're fleeing the two rivers. Although they cut out the fog, which again, why? I mean, a thing that showed Moraine to be powerful. Why would you have cut that out? Um, yeah. Although this picture does a good job. Sorry, Trip. I don't think we're gonna see Drakkar riders.
Wait, what? There are no Drakkar riders.
I know.
Okay.
I think he was talking to
Um,
me. I guess my question is, why? Of all the
what?
things that you could have changed,
No, but
why not step it up? But
there are more inexplicable things, right? So let's go through to the next one,
Imagine how
Alex,
much
which is
better
Barrelon.
episode eight's wall scene would have been if instead of like World War Z zombies climbing the wall, they had Drakkar swoop in and throw the defenders off the top.
Imagine how much better Tarwin's Gap would have been if they didn't
Yeah.
have a fucking wall, period.
I'm
Because
just saying,
there is no
even
wall in
within,
Tarwin's
I'm
Gap.
just saying, even within their own bullshit worlds, they made bad choices in cutting these things. But yeah.
Yeah, because they made a wall without a ditch in front and they put holes in it. Like, what? These people have not just been outside of a frickin' city in their whole lives and been without an iPhone. They've never picked up a history book. These people are not worthy of any type of respect whatsoever. They're the worst people on earth.
Man, look at those
Anyways, I've been
sunburst cloaks.
gorgeous, gorgeous. But more to your point about this, Alex. You like the Pater Connell scene with Rand and Matt in the books because it kind of establishes Rand and Matt is finally they come into somebody who's a little bit intimidated by them, right? Because Rand's a big guy, he's got a Heron Mark sword, he's able to bluff his way through, kind of thing. The first part where Rand is able to basically intimidate somebody else, bluff his way out of a confrontation, is with me. You're
Yeah.
welcome, right? I don't think this is a scene. This is not something you should cut from the story.
No.
You should have had the hint that someone was channeling and that Bella was healthy. You should have had the channeling sickness in Barlon. You should have had Min in Barlon. You should have not deviated from the story here. Um, they messed up so many things by not including Barlon, everything that happens, because it touches on so many characters. Nynaeve shows up at the Stag and Lion. Why did she show up there? And Moraine explains it a little bit later.
Mm-hmm.
Padden Fane shows up in Barlon. Oh, he survived Winternight. In this fucking show, you don't get him until they're in Tar Valon, and he's in the background there inexplicably. But he's not ragged. He's not like he raced his whole life and or raced for his life through the wilderness and ran his shoes off and looks completely decrepit and worn.
You
He
don't
looks
actually
completely normal.
see him in. You do see him in Tarvalon. That's. I was thinking that you see him at
You
the
hear him
Waygate.
whistle
Yeah.
you hear him whistle in Shadow Logoth in
And
the
then-
show,
And then you see him
but
at the
it doesn't
Waygate
even
for some
count.
damn reason.
Yeah, how do they get through it? Not explained. Like it's so bad, but they should not have excluded Barlon and everything. We'll get to the end of what we missed out on, but you missed out on Barlon. That includes the scene, the boss moment scene with Moraine bitch slapping Dane Bornhold and doing the mirrors of mist and stepping over the gate.
Also, it misses the scene where a fade just straight up, teleports in. Yeah, fades in the middle of a crowded city, right? Like those types of things. And Tripp said this in the video that we did with her, but we were talking about it before as well. The tonal problems in the show, like those types of things, all contribute to the sense of urgency, the sense of dread, the tone of the book. And they cut all that out and they replaced it with just this, bland color palette of just sort of biome switches.
Oh, and you get some of the best parts with Moraine in the whole series in these early chapters.
Yeah.
Especially like when they're leaving Barlon and she says, "Oh, I could go do something for the Stag and Lion. Like I could go and intervene, but what would happen?" So, the Dark One would capture all of you, and I'd get defeated, and I'd have to confront White Cloaks and yada yada yada. So I will do what I can, but that involves me leaving now and then making sure money is sent at a later date that cannot be traced to Tar Valon, so that the Stag and Lion can be rebuilt. Like she's cold, she's calculating, but she's worked everything through to the umpteenth degree, and it makes her a better character, quite honestly. And Moraine in these two episodes, she's a wounded idiot murderess, which we'll get to. But all right, next slide. What do we don't get any fighting versus Trollocs and Fades.
Mm-hmm.
So the whole chase from Barlon to Shadow Logoth, you kind of get, this is where the boys get their chance to show off some of the skills that they had or they worked on with Lan, which you also don't get.
And some great foreshadowing as well in the catch poles and stuff like that.
Catch poles, Kariel, Kaldazar, Matt speaks the old tongue very briefly. You think, oh, is Matt who they're actually interested in because he seems like an important person reborn?
Yeah.
Perrin, he's got a good moment in that. Rand is whipping his sword out. Um, Egwene doesn't do that much, but I mean, she's just learning how to channel, so she's got an area in there. But
Moraine is
all
a
of it's
straight
great.
boss who just like rips open the
Yeah,
earth with a wall of fire, like that stops an entire
yeah.
army.
Land cuts off a Fade's head,
Doesn't he
and all the
fight two
Trollocs that
Fades at once?
I'm gonna have to reread that, but I know he kills one, and then all the Trollocs that
Yeah.
were linked to it basically start writhing on the ground in agony. So that much is all good, but we don't get any of that. If anything, they just continue to get chased.
Well, it's because
Uh,
the fades are, instead of the nice practical effect work, it's just the worm mouth,
oh God, it sucks so much. Anyway,
So Ozzy makes a phenomenal point in the chat. As easy as it would be to make this, make it look practical, make it look good, uh, we would lose out on the fades looking like a fish. So there's some give and take here that you got to consider.
is it a fish or is it like a mollusk or an eel?
Lamprey, I
a
believe, is what they
lamprey,
were
yeah.
going for.
That's an eel.
It is funny. You think that it wouldn't have been hard to make the fades with actors, right? Like, get
It would have been
people
the
who
opposite of
are
hard. You just basically give them like
like a
a
little
plastic
mask,
thing to put
yeah.
over their
And
eyeballs.
honestly,
Done.
like all you'd really need is you'd need to hire some stunt actors who had like a very sort of could move in a very fluid sort of manner,
You could
and
hire blind people.
then give them a CGI or just a weighted black cloak. Like it literally just put fish weights in the hem of a cloak so that it doesn't
I
move
know.
very much while they flow around and do stuff. Like these people are terrible.
I mean, just take a regular person, take some of the cloth that you can sort of see out of, but you can't see into,
Yeah.
and let Lan and the guys swing at each other. Boom. Like that nothing is needed for this. This is a
Eh,
layup, and we just blew it.
And we don't get more death.
Did you guys ever
We don't
see?
get this.
Sorry,
We
one more
don't get
comment about the
this.
fades. Sorry. Did you
Oh,
guys ever
oh.
see that like the YouTube fan video like from the blight or something like that? They just cold open like a black Aja Aes Sedai and a fade sort of in like a desert blight scene at the beginning.
No.
It's you can
Oh,
find it. It's the one that has the series of Rand and Matt going like town to town through the play for their supper kind of scenes. Anyway, they did a better job on literal like home video YouTube budget of making a fade other than like the mouth makeup.
well, I think the mouth makeup in the show was fucking terrible. So,
We'll put a
Good
link
to
in the
see.
description of this to those people's videos if I can
all
find it
right.
again.
Anyways, we didn't get more death, so we didn't get the scene establishing like no one talks to Matt or they're not looking for treasure. The dagger, there's no real significance to it. He just picks it up and goes, but all that shit is glossed over.
Yeah, Padden
Um,
Fane is just gonna be just a dude in this show. Like there's no
I know.
way that they can introduce him like having superpowers and things like that, which he sort of does. Like he is he is beyond just a normal human. And they've done nothing to introduce that. There's no way that they just show up with that later.
Or is there?
They'll shove it in.
Yeah.
Damn it.
Next one.
I think about how
Oh,
lame uh the Shadow Logoth uh scene was. Like,
Super
really, you
lame.
got it like just like dark blobs coming after things. Like, having Mordant there just to add some creepiness factor would have been
Especially
huge.
especially if, like I said, if the cold open had been the fall of Eridhall, and then you could have seen Mordith, and then 2,000 years later, or 1,000 years later, I guess 2,000 years, it would have been the same actor, right? And
Yeah.
then like they could have really established Padden Fane as a so Mordith and then Padden Fane in sequence, I suppose, as like a real villain sort of antagonist, and instead just White Cloaks chopping Aes Sedai's hands off.
Right? I
It's
mean,
what
if
we
you
all
think to
wanted to see.
yourself that you have 8 cold opens, as in you can establish 8 things for free without having to do any sort of context or building. You know, I can see how you might use the cold opening on this. I might do it as a flashback. I mean, you got a lot of options. But yeah, the lack of Mordeth here, uh,
Terrible.
really sucks considering it wouldn't have cost you anything to throw him in there.
Yeah,
And it would have improved what you came up with.
for sure.
Well, we don't also get Bail
Everybody's favorite.
going down the spray. Like I think we hinted on
my
it.
aged
Like
grandmother,
Rand,
my favorite character.
yeah, when Rand and Matt are off in the mountain and he's shouting after Egwene, it's so incongruous, right? It's why did you go hike 50 fucking miles up a mountain and you're still shouting for her? Like, why aren't you still around Shadow Logoth trying to look for her? Because that's what you would do.
Yeah.
If you were separated within the city and you don't know if she made it out or not, you would not go that far away. You would be hanging around the city. So within the books, it makes a shit ton more sense in that Rand has the same impulse, right? He wants to go find Egwene. That's all he kind of cares about. That's his primary concern. But he's confronted by the reality that he's on a ship and he's already 5 miles downriver, even though it's only been a short period of time. And there's nothing he can do about it. So they're done, and he has to trust either the wheel or fate or Moraine, the rest, that everything will come together as it should in the end. But if those characters were all split the way they were without Bail Domon and without the spray, there's no excuse for Rand basically hiking up a mountain, shouting the whole time, and him not staying put to try and reunite himself with Egwene. At least what we've established, even in the show, that the only thing Rand cares about is simping for Egwene.
So I'm going to ask you a question here, because this is one of the things that I've struggled with their decisions in what to do with Rand and Matt. If you're already going to make the terrible decision of not having Tom with them early, okay, whatever.
Yep.
Granted that they've made these decisions, right? Do you guys think that the story would have been better and tighter, more concise, whatever, if it had progressed this way? So Rand and Matt, they go north or out of Shadow Logoth. They get to the river and they come across a riverboat, just like they did in the books. And it's Bail Domon's boat. And they scramble up onto the deck and the ship casts off and they go. And Tom Maryland is already on the spray going downriver to Ilion for the Great Hunt of the Horn or something like that, right?
Oh, you sound like you've read these books and you might have a logical way to introduce this character.
And we see, instead of the stupid walking across and all roads lead to Tar Valon and Breen Spring and the Dark Friend barmaid and all this other stuff, what if we had just seen the two of them and Tom Maryland actually like have some character development and growth, have them on the spray? We see that sequence, and then it either drops them off in Whitebridge and we see essentially a scene of Whitebridge, right? So instead of the farmhouse and the fade and stuff like that, if we just got the scene in Whitebridge.
Dude, you could have had Tom Maryland basically wrestle with the choice. Do I go to Ilion to compete for the Great Hunt, for the Horn competition?
Yeah.
Or do I take care of these two lads? Because he develops an affinity almost immediately because he thinks one of them might be Owen.
Yeah.
Right? So someone might be able to chant.
So they could have done so much better by just having Bail Domon, having the spray in there. It never made any sense to me why they cut him out and they replaced him with Breen Spring. Like, what a stupid decision. And that's even giving that, like, they've already thrown the book out with the bathwater, right? Like they've already decided, well, we're going to do huge deviations. We're cutting out Baerlon. We're cutting out all of this stuff. I'm just saying, fine. You know what? Hey, you guys made the directorial decisions that you made, but like, why did you do the worst version of that storytelling? Like,
I mean, they wanted it over with quickly is the answer to that question. Why did they do it that way? Because, they wanted to focus on the Aes Sedai stuff.
but think about the
I
budget
mean,
they would have saved if they didn't have to build a whole Breen Springs
That was
set.
that was immaterial.
I was gonna say, yeah. I mean, well, we've also
It's
discussed
not.
the fact that they're just complete fucking idiots with their budget. I mean, the fact that they built freaking Two Rivers and then burned it down. I mean, clearly they're
And they
spending
were proud of
chunks.
it.
Yeah, they were proud of it.
Here's a question, Dane. If the set that we saw as Breen Springs, if that had been called Bearlawn, I get it. Like, not a nice, tidy, sort of walled town that's in a good order and discipline and stuff like that. But if they had just used the money that they put in that set and then just given us Bearlawn, would you have accepted that? I think I would have accepted that. I think a town near some mines. But I think
right in a mine.
Sure, whatever. Like, I'm just
Bearlawn's a mining town, but it's not in a mine, and it's smaller than fucking Emmons Field, right? So that's the other thing is when they arrive in Bearlawn, they're like, "Ooh, this is a city."
The awe and wonder wouldn't have been there. That's a good point. Okay. I still think that it just is so weird that they even included Breen Spring. Like, I think we hear that town's name once in the books.
Once.
Like, who are these people? Like, again, with the Easter eggs instead of actual adaptation.
This is what they have a lore expert for. It's like, find us something obscure that's mentioned once that we can basically generate out of whole cloth. But
we can parade around as an Easter egg.
Yeah, or has some tangential link to the actual story, but that's what they got the lore expert for. It wasn't to actually stick with the lore. It's basically, let us write our own stuff that kind of fits in with what's been established. Like, it's the same shit. This is why your Yulan Yakota or whatever, Shinaran shows up in like a later episode. That guy's mentioned all of once in like a prologue for Crossroads of Twilight or something like that. Like, so Shinaran, who's traveling with the Borderlanders when there's a brief scene establishing them up kind of north of Tarvalon.
Mm-hmm.
Never heard of that guy before. They dyslexically wrote his name down, and that's his new character name. It's not like Yakota, but it's like Coyota or something stupid. Like,
so Bail Doman is one that we've heard confirmed for season 2, right? So Bail Doman has been cast.
this is
what
I'm complete.
I want to know what are they going to do with this
character. I am so worried. This is what they're doing, right? I'm so worried that this show is going to basically claim, we listened to the fans, we heard you.
We listened to them. We cast the guy. Shut up already.
We didn't like that. You didn't like that Bail Doman wasn't cast. Here's Bail Doman. We listened to the fans. We heard you. We understand that Elias Machera not being in season 1 was a mistake, so we're rectifying that.
Let me guess. Bail Doman is going to be cast only because they need to have a scene of Iagean just absolute smacking the shit out of Bail off of his own deck.
Oh, probably.
It's gonna be the female Ciantian commander who's just gonna show up and just smack the hell out of Bail, and that's gonna be the only time he's on camera.
At least until season. Well, yeah, only time, because it's going to get canceled next. But some of the casting choices out there.
I see the hyper competent Egwene, Nynaeve, and Elaine sort of taking over his boat at the end and just like putting him in his place and like taking just proving that they're better sailors than he is.
That's true. Bail is not going to be the commander or the captain of the Spray. He's going to be the captain of the River Serpent that we saw taking them to Saladar, that they just completely just one up, make him offload his entire cargo.
Well, he's a smuggler. Anyways,
I'm still.
We don't get Bail.
Go ahead, Dane.
I wanted to move on to the next slide because after this whole season aired, I'm actually kind of glad we didn't get Bail Doman and we didn't get Elias or Hopper, as we see here, because at least their characters weren't fucking butchered. They weren't even
Maybe
included, but at least they weren't butchered.
right. Maybe my favorite of the Ragnar quotes of just self-indictment is you know, we didn't include a lot of stuff like Elias he's going to be in the next season, but we really felt that with our first season we wanted to put our best foot forward and start with the most interesting things. So that's why we went so heavy on the Aes Sedai. And I'm just sitting here like,
Oh
buddy,
man.
you thought that the half wolf dream sequence hunting of Trollocs was less interesting than Tower Politics.
Yes.
Are you kidding me?
Shitty Tower Politics.
Like, are you fucking high right now?
Well, think for a second though. How popular and successful was the movie Mean Girls? Huge,
Right.
huge blockbuster.
Damn
Oh,
you,
man.
Pips.
Season 2 will have at least one episode about the man in North Harbor.
So I'm actually curious. If there was anything that they might have been able to change with feedback, for season
They're
2.
they're
Flicker,
ignoring,
flicker, flicker,
but
flicker,
they're not because
flicker.
they started on season 2 before season 1 even aired.
Yeah,
So they're not changing shit. There's no way they course correct kind of at all. And I
well,
think that
the CGI stuff, the
y- y-
post-production stuff can be, would be done after filming. And they only wrapped filming in March. So they've got
Yeah, in theory they
quite a
can
bit of
be.
time.
In theory, it can all be done more competent, right? But I agree with Dane that like plot wise,
it was already written,
correction.
right?
Yeah.
Oh yeah, the writing is well and truly fucked. There's nothing that's saving that aspect. What I'm wondering is, if they heard any feedback and could make some changes at this stage in the game, they might be able to fix the wolves. They might go away from the shitty tiny wolves and might actually give us it galls me to say it, but they might give us sort of the Twilight wolves. Like that's something that they could fix. And
They
I
might
don't
give
think
us the
they
Game of
will.
Thrones Darkhounds.
Yeah. This is something that they could do. Now I don't think they will, but if I was trying to sell anybody on optimism, that would be the copium particular strain that I would be encouraging them to smoke.
I don't even care about Parent's story overall, like anymore. Like he's a non-character. I know they're not going to give him anything kind of remotely close to his original plot line because I'm pretty convinced now they're not going to introduce Fail. They're going to have him simp after Avienda for season upon season.
So interesting question for you then. Going forward, do you think the show would be improved if just season 2 starts and they're like, Perrin tragically died, Matt abandoned us, now it's just Rand, Egwene, Nynaeve? Because I'm at the point where I think if they just cut the gangrenous limb off.
Man, that is an interesting argument because I do think there's something to be said that Tom Maryland was the least of the ruined main characters in this first season, and that's only because he just wasn't in it.
Yeah, I mean the consensus is definitely that Bail Doman survived season 1 the best.
Yeah.
He's on the spray doing his thing off camera.
Just happy, untouched, unbothered by Ragnar. Fucking hell.
I don't know how you improve this show at all. I don't think it's possible. I think it's a lost cause.
I think we've discussed it. The only solution is the flicker I've won again, Luce Theron.
And then you end it, and then you let Ragnar play the victim and be like, "Oh, those damn white cloaks, they got us canceled." And I'll be like, Good, you fucker. Hope you never get work again in your life.
Oh man.
I think it would take you one episode to put the chess pieces back, and by that I mean you wouldn't be
No.
allowed to do a single thing, and then you would just have to lampshade the hell out of it.
No,
Just
I
ignore
no,
huge
no.
aspects of the characterization.
I would fire everyone involved with this production. I would
Oh, that's
fire
what I
all
mean.
of them.
You can't
It
fix this with what is happening.
I wouldn't even go like I would go something separate. I want to go if I was going to adapt this, which I'm hesitant on. I don't think anyone can maybe do a good faithful adaptation of this and just say fuck it. If you like the series, you like the story, read the fucking books. Like don't be an illiterate piece of shit. Go read a book for once in your fucking life. Like you don't even have to read. You can go listen to it, right? They have audiobooks. That's a thing these days. But I am so over this idea of everybody's favorite book, everybody's favorite story needs to get adapted into a different media. I don't want to see it at this point. The only exception to this is maybe somebody does something faithfully in an animation style that is faithful and adds something new or adds a particular vision to the story. That might actually work. But at this point, I I don't even want to see that. Someone can try maybe 50 years from now or whatnot, but not until our culture's kind of realigned itself. Because I don't trust anybody to do it.
All right, Dane says no.
I think it's a fascinating conversation that might play into our ending of this. Um, so I'm gonna say let's put a pin in that, and we'll come back to it.
Fair enough.
The actual Tom Maryland, good grief,
What a stud.
That's
right?
we didn't get that guy. We got fucking guy who looks like Aragorn and sings with a guitar terribly.
I strongly disagree that actor looked like Aragorn. Viggo Mortensen in Lord of the Rings might be the most handsome man ever put on screen. I do not
Now his
think
teeth
that
were
guy
wrong.
looked anything like Aragorn.
Kind of did.
All right,
Scruffy beard.
For the second time, Trip is frantically trying to unmute herself in the chat in order to join in on 1 to 10 Aragorn from Lord of the Rings.
Anyways, neither here nor there. These are the characters we didn't get, and that's what the biggest sin of these episodes actually were.
Yeah.
Wasted time and wasted opportunity.
Yeah, and let's remember that it was a waste because they had the time, they had the space. They just decided to not have it so that they could do fucking Steppen and Logain and Swan and Moraine muff diving for the next 3 episodes.
The important context here, right, is so this is our episode 3 recap, which means that we are now at the point where the first day the show was viewable, this is what they came out. The first 3 episodes dropped together. So here we are at the end of day 1. You know, you binged all 3 episodes, and you're like, man, they cut a lot of stuff, but well, there's a lot of things that they need to make time for, like you said, the hopium, right? Like,
yeah,
and it's not
and we
until later that you realize that it's not just that the first season is going to go beyond the events of just Eye of the World, which is what they were saying when they were coming out with the show, right? Is that season 1 is not just going to be the Eye of the World. So you're like, okay, well maybe they'll go past the end of the Eye of the World, and like the Eye of the World will be, you know, episode 6 maybe, and then episodes, you know, 7 and 8 will be into the Great Hunt, or, you know, something, right? But no, they didn't condense the storyline, and in so doing had to cut things in order to make room. You know, they didn't do that. What they did is they cut things and injected just a freaking bag of shit. Like the next couple episodes are them leaving a flaming bag of shit on your doorstep and asking you to politely not notice.
And it's worse if you try and put it out. All right.
Yeah, then you get canceled from
of,
Reddit. If you try and put it out, you get canceled from Reddit.
right. You can't even call the fire department without getting canceled from Reddit.
All right, give me a sec. I'll be back in a moment, guys.
Gotcha. I need some more beer, so I'll be right back too.
Seriously, you guys are gonna leave me on my own just to sit here and just look at Moraine's freaking happy ass smiling?
Don't worry, you can cut this all in post, right? Flaming, 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 flaming.
You're giving me all of the flamings to try and cut in? Sorry, man, that's too much high effort. I can't go through here and find every time you curse every 6 seconds for the entire video and just drop in your flaming. Alright, well, while we're sitting here, I can go over and look and see what you guys are saying in the chat. So, what do we got? Trip is saying I'm supposed to read the comments. I'm looking at the comments. Got it. He's a 9, not a 10. Okay. What do we got here? We need an intervention to save Aaron. Oh, man. Tom only singing one song. So the question here, guys, is, and you can answer this in the chat, was Tom only singing one song, was that a good thing or a bad thing? Because, yeah, more Tom songs would have been great, but then there would have been more show Tom songs. Do we really want to hear more of the man who can't forget?
No.
Right?
No, we don't want to hear that.
Like,
because he can't sing.
I mean,
wait, are we back or?
I think Alex is still gone. But yeah,
I'm back.
Okay.
Oh, sweet!
Right.
You got more of the Des Moines beer.
All right, there we go. I engaged with the chat a little bit while you guys were gone, so I think we're ready to move
That's
on.
nice.
Actually, real quick, El Don, thanks for jumping on. And I saw your comment on some of the on one of the YouTube videos about our ratings. And I think you make a phenomenal point that people were still sort of excited through the first 3, and that 4th episode sort of being like passable had people excited, and I think you made a phenomenal point there. So I just wanted to give you a shout out for that.
Nice. All right, now that we're back, and hopefully, Pips, you've cut this whole interlude where nothing was happening.
No, I'm gonna play all of it and
flaming, flaming, flaming.
All right.
All right. Okay. Final part of the discussion. So I've got 6 slides. Lan isn't included here because it's a moot point. We all know when Lan was assassinated the most, and it was episode 5, and that's coming up.
Disagree. Episode 7, Lan was assassinated the worst.
I think episode 1 when he was.
What's wrong with you people? It's the nipple tweaking.
He was hitting people with his rubber sword and being completely incompetent at fighting.
I was going to say episode 1. It would be him basically saying, "Fuck the villagers, we got to get out of here."
Yeah,
it's bad.
I was going to say episode 7, him hitting and quitting Nynaeve was my worst.
The real Lan was assassinated because he is Sir not appearing in this film.
Oh God. Okay. So apparently we're gonna have to have this Lan debate, a separate issue, because we've all got different ideas. But I excluded him from this, so let's just go through the main 6, not the main 7. So this is our Emmonsfield 5 plus Moraine, whose character was assassinated the most in episodes 2 and 3 specifically. So we can run through this either quite quickly, or we can take a tier list as we're going. Just remember, you're going to have to rank the characters as they come up.
All right, let's talk
out
through,
of 6.
Yeah, let's talk through them real quickly, and then we'll
let's go through the first one.
Yeah.
Let's go through we all know who the characters are, and we all know what they did to them. So let's go through the first one.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah, okay. Wounded idiot murderess.
Dane, I really appreciate the labels you put on these. They're great.
Thank you.
Yeah.
I tried 12%. That's the amount of effort I put in, and I'm sticking with it.
I'm going to say Moraine is rather low on this list.
What?
Hear me
she
out.
was asleep for episodes.
Make your case.
Yes, she was asleep for a lot of it, and
that counts against her, right? Because these are some of her biggest. These are some of her biggest boss moments in the books.
Sure, but
right?
This is also a classic of one of those moments. Like, it's better to keep your mouth shut and be thought a fool than open your mouth and leave no doubt. The rest of them were running around actively being the worst versions of themselves. She was sort of like barely in the frame, sleeping, and you're just like, I don't know.
She had an excuse.
Her character
you guys
was
are
episode 2.
In the show, she also has an IQ of 80.
That's being generous.
Yeah, so a lot of what I'm chalking up that she does wrong.
Leave Brittany alone.
Yeah, I'm just blaming on her just being incompetent, where the others are like at times actually malevolent. So it's hard for me to just say that taking someone who's very, very smart and making them very, very stupid, in another show that would be a damning situation. But in this one, it's just kind of meh.
Okay. So what I'm penciling in on my my sheet here is Moraine. I'm putting her somewhere in the middle, but kind of in the bottom third, just anticipating where we're going to go. But I don't think we can establish the rank order yet. So let's move on to the next character. Moraine is not the most assassinated. I think everybody can agree with that.
Yep.
But let's, instead of assigning her a number, let's see where she ranks. So Rand, who's a simp that gets his ass kicked by a girl.
Man, I mean,
he's not more assassinated in these 2 episodes than he is elsewhere in the whole series. Like we've already established that he's a simp without a character and does nothing. And
the really only sin committed against Rand's character that isn't just the show generally is the replacing of lightning with ironwood door. Right? Like,
that's more of an assassination of fucking Dana's character than Rand's, in my opinion.
So he, I mean, he's just a plank of wood the whole damn show. Like, he's just got such a stupid smile at like times that he shouldn't, and I don't know. He just makes me think like there's just something about your face that makes me want to hit you.
All right, but worse or less worse than Moraine? Like, do we put him above or do we put him below Moraine for these 2 eps?
I'm gonna say less assassinated than Moraine. Probably still middle of the pack.
See, I want to say more assassinated. I have far
Fuck
less
you! You're gonna make me the deciding vote.
You didn't even let me finish. I'm gonna say.
Well, you know how much I've been drinking. I don't want to make decisions.
Well, we don't have to do a final ranking until we go through all of them.
Yeah, I have far more tolerance for stupidity than I do for simping. On the other hand,
a lot of the simping he does in these episodes is basically vicarious, right?
It's true.
It's Perrin pointing out that Rand is a simp.
It's not really simping. It's more pining. He's pining.
No, it's third characters observing his previous predilection towards simping.
Yeah, so but on the other hand, I actually give him a little bit of credit because he was the only one to call out Moraine's bullshit. And I know the show like tried to paint that as him being the bad guy, but I was just sitting there like, yep, nope, Rand is 100% right about this. Like,
yeah, exactly. So less assassinated than Moraine.
So, but even giving him that credit,
it's close. Like, if we put Rand, we're gonna have to put Rand kind of close to Moraine. That would be the deciding vote.
All right, let's move on. Let's get through the whole list and then we'll shake them out.
It's bad, but I'm saying, all right, we put Rand above Moraine, but not a whole lot of daylight in between.
This is such a great picture to have for Perrin too, because it's such the opposite of what we get. So Perrin.
His mouth isn't open, right?
I feel like
Oh,
Perrin is one or
man.
two. Like, I mean, Perrin and Matt are the top two. I don't think
Yeah.
there's any
Yeah.
argument that they're the top two.
Yeah, I don't think we're arguing there.
So Perrin was assassinated more than Rand was.
Yes.
100%.
Because he cried a lot, had a dog lick his leg, and didn't do anything
Yeah, I
else
mean, he
other than
literally
walk.
sitting
How
there
did
crying about his dead wife.
I was going to say, how did murdering his own wife not make the list?
Well, no, this is episode 2 and 3, right? He already
Yeah.
murdered his wife.
Oh, okay,
we
gotcha.
did this.
So this is only.
we did this in the episode 1 recap as well. So we're revisiting the conversation now that we've seen 2 more episodes.
God, I do not remember doing this in the episode 1 recap. I must have been fucking blasted.
Awesome.
We've had a lot of drunken rewatches since then. So
Oh, God.
It was a while ago. All right, next one. So we agree so far it's like Perrin, Rand, Moraine. As far as who is assassinated the worst.
Perrin,
if
Moraine,
we're
Rand in
only-
my list, but we'll keep going.
If we're
Mhm.
only judging this on 2 and 3,
Mhm.
Perrin literally does nothing in 2 and 3.
Yeah,
Except
which
for
can go,
cry,
but that can
like
go both ways, right? It's like he didn't do anything bad, he didn't do anything good because he did fuck all.
Which almost makes me think that he might be the highest or the least assassinated.
Except all he did was get his fucking leg licked by a dog and cry a lot.
Which I'm saying is
Which
bad,
is not what.
but didn't actively like further the Dark One's plan to rule the world.
Anyways, let's move on.
Yeah.
It's all relative. Egwene, as insufferable as in the books. I think she was assassinated the least.
Yeah, her
she
character
was true
assassinated
to
the least. Yeah.
I agree.
So Ragnar
That was
accomplished
easy.
Ragnar accomplished his
know.
one thing. His one thing. She's his favorite character. She is the closest to an actual adaptation from the books.
I agree with that. However, my sister sent this to me. Hannah sent this as a direct quotation. Egwene is a trifling hoe.
That is true.
So, like,
but she was that in the books. Remember her with Aram?
Yeah.
She's like, oh, my boyfriend probably is dead.
This is what yesterday. I believe now. I believe in the way of belief. Since when? Since yesterday.
It's like my boyfriend is probably dead as of yesterday. And oh, dude, this guy's hot.
Yeah, I don't know. I don't think anybody does anything as singularly like irritating to me as Egwene dumping Rand and then like toying with his feelings. Like that is such a shitty thing to do, and it's like relatable to me. Like,
yeah,
I don't know. I've never murdered my wife, so I can't like.
Fuck.
That one's harder to relate to.
That's episode 1, and the dumping. Yeah.
All right, we're on board. Egwene least murdered. Okay.
All right, we got 2 more to go through.
Nynaeve. I'm gonna say I think Nynaeve is. I would put Nynaeve as number 3. So I'm gonna say I think Matt is gonna jump in here. I think Matt and Perrin, and then Nynaeve as most assassinated. Nynaeve's whole thing of actively trying to kill Lan.
Let's forget Matt. There's a reason I put him kind of last, but Nynaeve obviously having the worst kind of medical training available.
Yep. So
either online or Caribbean,
and trying to kill Lan.
Trying to kill Lan is one thing that's out of character, but also kind of the whole redressing the wound and then covering it over with infected cloth.
Yes.
And it's a puncture wound. Like it went through her to the other side, and we don't address the exit wound at all.
Yeah.
Like all of that was just freaking terrible. She doesn't know how to heal. She is
she and Moraine are functionally almost identical when you think about the argument for them, in the sense that, you know, Nynaeve basically wasn't around in 2.
And then Moraine
And
wasn't around in 3 because she was getting healed or whatnot. Like,
yes, and both of them established that they are, you know, highly incompetent at the one thing that they're supposed to be good at. So I think the tiebreaker has to be her trying to kill Lan, but I think the argument for both of them is very similar.
so what was she? If we're gonna rank this from she's obviously more assassinated than Egwene, who was true to the
All right.
books.
Of the ones
Moraine,
we've
Rand,
gone
and
through,
Perrin. Yeah.
I think you guys convinced me on Rand and Moraine. So of the one from most assassinated to least assassinated that we've talked through so far, I have Perrin, Nynaeve, Rand, Moraine, Egwene.
So you put her assassination above Rand's.
Yeah.
What do you
And
think,
I don't
Alex?
know if I agree
I,
with that. I hate Randall Simp so much.
yeah, but it's the 2 episodes, right? We get more Randall
Yeah,
simping kind
Randall
of.
Simp is sort of a staple of one. I agree.
So I'm
I don't.
fine. I'm fine putting Nynaeve between Perrin and Rand.
All right, let's see how we shake out when we get to the last ones here.
The grave robbing degenerate in a bathrobe.
Trip is screaming at us in chat and probably direct messages. Most assassinated.
Was he though?
I can't really see a way out of it.
Because
I
he
mean,
got the bathrobe in episode 1.
Sure.
And as Trip herself pointed out from her kind of marijuana induced visions, he probably was robbing graves in the 2 rivers. That's how he filled up his coin purse kind of originally.
So here's the reason that I'm going to say most assassinated. Because the
Okay.
show has done absolutely nothing at this point to establish the effect of the knife, which means that
You mean the dagger?
Yeah.
Which looked like a fucking knife?
Yeah. So everything that
which
he's done,
looked less threatening than a fucking steak knife?
Yes. So that everything he's done, all of the like the personal shittiness and like, you know, absolutely not being helpful and trying to abandon his friend and just like, you know, oh, I'll get my safe passage home and leave Rand to his own shit, and just being the laziest, least reliable, most garbage person ever, and a grave robber on top of all of that. And his whole like, hey, I'm in this city that's like supposed to be super dangerous and stuff. I'm just gonna want like they set all that stuff up, and it's just, hey, this is just him. He's just this guy. If they're establishing anything, they're establishing the darkness within him, not the darkness of the dagger. So I say most assassin.
All right, I'm going to play devil's advocate here. Hit me with these one at a time.
Son of a bitch.
What are Matt's horrible sins?
All right, so obviously you have the grave robbing right there at the top. On top of that, you have.
Well, okay. Hang on.
Okay.
He needs the money to he needs the money to get back to his sisters who are living in an abused household.
I mean,
is it really a sin if you have a noble purpose at the end of it?
The ends don't justify the means, in my opinion.
I agree, but okay. Like I said, I'm playing devil's advocate here. Keep them coming.
Abandoning Rand or trying to?
Well, Rand is a simp. Like, why would you want to hang out with that guy to begin with?
But see, that's the thing, and we talked about this before. The only redemption like nugget that they give us is that like, oh well, he's like really, you know, into helping his sisters, which is like the minimum threshold of human decency necessary. That like you mean you're willing to like go to lengths to protect the people who literally like biologically, you have a biological imperative to give a shit about their well-being.
Not only that,
and I mean the counterpoint is obviously, well, hey, doofus, he's the one that abandoned them in the first place.
That's true.
They establish he's helping his sisters by fucking leaving the
the 2 rivers. So yeah, so
throwing the Trollocs away.
And we saw how he helped them in the middle of the Trolloc attack anyway, which is he took them from a personal or like a perfect hiding spot and made them go stand alone in the woods where the Trollocs were. As far as
episode
I know. I'm just saying that
That's not a motivation
I-
thing. That's just the
I'm just
writers
saying-
being fucking retarded.
I'm just saying we've seen how he helps his sisters. So him going back and offering to do more of that, no, that's a
might
mark against
might
him.
not help them out in the long run.
Fair enough.
The best
him-
thing that
him
ever
being-
happened to Eldrin and Bode was basically Matt getting the fuck out of the Two River.
And then him being a lazy piece of shit in Brain
Oh.
Spring.
Yeah, I got nothing for that one.
So those are three
But-
like active things that happened, whereas the rest of them we're talking about like they were just really passive and they didn't do anything, and like he's actively being bad.
Now, the only thing I'll say is so Matt wasn't really assassinated in episode 2, but I think he completely was assassinated in episode 3.
Yeah.
Nynaeve didn't even show up in episode 2. So
Except
is
kill Lan.
at the very end, which was kind of stupid, but Perrin? I don't know. Like we missed out a lot of Perrin, so I'm kind of torn here between Matt and Perrin, because all Perrin did was get his fucking leg licked by a wolf. We didn't get any Elias. We didn't get
Yeah, that's
kind of anything. We didn't get any agency of him. We didn't get kind of the sense of he is the strong silent type, or he's the guy who thinks things over but is actually quite clever and able to reason
whoever's
things.
doing the character direction or directing for what is it, Marcus Rutherford. I don't know how strong silent type, which is a good description of Perrin, like stoic, right? Turned into slack-jawed idiot, which is what we see on camera.
Yeah.
Well,
All right, so I guess
the
if
writers
we're
are not
pulling this
capable of
up-
writing anything other than an idiot. So,
Number one.
where are we sitting? Number 1. I'm honestly I'm quite fine because I know what they do with Matt later, and I think this is where you see the first hints.
Foundation, yeah.
He is not who he's supposed to be, right?
No.
He's not the Matt of Shattered Logoth who is encouraging the boys to get into trouble, and you have no Mordeth, and you've got nothing. You've robbed him of some of his best moments of the Corral Caldazar charging towards the Trollocs. Maybe there's something with him. You didn't even have him in Berlon, right?
Mhm.
Where there's the great part with him and Rand, and he plays the prank on Dane Bornhold and gets their cloaks all splashed with mud. Like you robbed a lot from Matt specifically.
Yeah.
In the arc that should have been the story. And we know what they're setting up. And they're setting him up as kind of a giant piece of shit. So
I'm not
this
taking
is a
the setup
rewatch,
into
like-
consideration. I mean, I feel
You
like
should,
we're rating
though.
it just on these episodes.
what do you
Alright,
think?
I'm gonna say I think we've talked through it enough. So, Alex, it sounds like you're the most out there. So what's your breakdown? Go 1 through 6. What do you got? Most assassinated to least assassinated.
I'm going to say Perrin is number 1 most assassinated.
Okay.
I'm going to say that Matt has 2 things going for him. The first is they at least attempted to give him a reason for doing some of the things that he does. And I will also say that he has a handful of sentences. The scene where he sits down next to Perrin and tries to comfort him, the scene where he tries to get Rand back on track after his argument with Moraine. So the fact that there is at least 1 or 2 good things that I can say about Matt relative to the show gives Perrin the edge in my mind
All right,
for
so you
most
have,
assassinated.
So you have Perrin as 1 and Matt as 2.
Well, this is the
It's a good argument, Alex.
Yeah, I mean it's not. It's
You're
not a bad
convincing
argument.
me.
Yeah, it's not a bad argument.
number 2. The 2-3 is actually where I struggle the most.
Okay.
Flip a coin.
All right, Dane, 1 or 2.
2.
All right, Dane picked it for me. My
Wait, what?
number 2 least favorite, or my number 2 most assassinated, is Egwene.
What the fuck? Okay, go ahead.
Okay,
Um,
get your whole list out and then defend your
Wait.
list.
Number 2 most assassinated is Egwene.
Yep.
So we got Perrin Egwene for some reason.
Yep.
Yep. And my thing about Egwene is I fucking hate Egwene in this show.
See,
And
to
my
me, that
hatred of
isn't.
Egwene in this show is so high. And the only reason that, this isn't a clear cut number 2 for me is that my hatred of Egwene in the books is also very high.
That's what I was gonna say, because my wife is reading the Eye of the World right now as a first time read through, and she commented, she's like, Egwene sucks.
But I'm going to say that I feel like Egwene got shit on by the Tavernness in the sense that, by making her Taverran, she didn't get sort of her establishing character moment of being the one that chooses to go on the adventure. So she didn't get that aspect
That's
to
episode
stand
1, though.
out.
That's episode 1.
Okay, I fair enough, but I'm struggling, because she doesn't have that to build upon.
Yeah.
Everything that she does just doesn't have that sort of filter of positivity that it should have, for all of these events. It's just she's instead of doing things because that's her motivation, she just does them to be a bitch.
All right, let's go through the list. We're already kind of running over time. Our
so
ambition. I thought I was going to
Perrin-
get through this in half an hour. And
So you have Perrin and Egwene.
Number 3 is obviously Matt for reasons that I'm sure you guys will expound upon.
And then who else
we
you
got?
got?
Perrin, Egwene, Matt, and then
number 4 has to be Rand.
Okay.
I just cannot stand Rand's simping ass. What a fucking loser. Then I have Nynaeve as number 5 and Moraine as number 6, with the tiebreaker being that Moraine didn't try to kill Land for no obvious reasons.
All right. Pips, your turn. Go through your list of 6.
All right, so I've already kind of said it, but I have Matt, Perrin, Nynaeve, Rand, Moraine, and Egwene, and that's most assassinated to least assassinated. And if you give me yours, Dane, I'll do a mathematical composite of.
Can we get
ours.
somebody in the chat to record these for us?
I got them down. I'm writing them down.
You got them down. All right, cool.
So I'm gonna go with Perrin.
Sorry, Dane, can you read me Prophet's comment? Moraine is willing to set the.
So Prophet's basically he's bringing things out of context. So we're only talking about episodes 2 and 3, but Moraine is willing to set the Red Aja on Matt, but that only happens in episode 7. So we got to exclude that from our ranking here. So my own ranking, I'm going to go with Perrin, Matt, Nynaeve, Rand, Moraine, Egwene.
All right, Perrin, Matt, Nynaeve, Rand, Egwene, Moraine. Okay.
No. I put Moraine second to last. Not that it matters because we're all talking about who was assassinated the most. Mm-hmm. And interestingly enough, we got Perrin here with 2 first places and a second.
Yeah. So Perrin's definitely getting the top spot. Matt is probably getting the second spot, but I'm gonna do some math here and figure it out.
Matt got 3, 1, and 2.
Rand across the board is probably in 4th because he got 4th amongst all of us. I know chat is going a little bit like eye rolling here, but holy shit, yeah. At least with these episodes specifically, what? And let's bring this back to Perrin. So can we scroll up a couple of slides to where I describe him as a dog licks his leg and he cries a lot? These were some of the best Perrin chapters, right? That at least what was covered in the books. Perrin is a significant character. He is the second point of view character that you get. You get a heck of a lot of character building and establishment from here because it's described him as being, he's not slow of thought. He's careful. He's cautious. He wants to plan things through. He's big. He's worried about others. He's empathetic. He doesn't want to bull rush into anything because he's concerned he might actually cause harm to somebody else.
Yeah.
and everything about him. So I'm not sure you describe Perrin as an intelligent character in the strict sense of the word, as being quick and being able to come to conclusions
He's a
and
thoughtful
process
character.
information. He's wise, right? He takes his time. He thinks things through. He tries to make sense of everything as he can see it. And throughout everything in the books, Perrin comes across as a wise person more than he does intelligent. He speaks to kind of common sense. He doesn't have the phenomenal kind of key insights, but there's something about him where it's just like, you know what? At the end of the day, would you rather be led by someone who is wise or someone who is intelligent? And that's what Perrin is. And I think he makes a great case for wisdom over intelligence. That's my view.
Good points, all.
Compelling point.
I got the answers here. So from the group, our composite scores have the following breakdown: no ties, so that makes it easy.
Thank
So
goodness.
most assassinated to least, we landed on Perrin with 17
Yep.
points, Matt with 15 points. Then it goes to Nynaeve with 10 points, Rand with 9, Egwene with 7, Moraine with 5. So the way that I did that is I gave points from 1 to 6 for most versus least assassinated, and then just summed them. So a pretty good fall there. You can see Perrin and Matt are the clear leaders between the three of us, and then a pretty tight group. So Perrin is at 17, and then you have between Moraine and Nynaeve, which are 1 through 4 in terms of least assassinated, are only ranged between 5 and 10. So a tight group for the least assassinated, with Perrin and Matt being the breakouts.
Well, I think it's quite telling that someone who basically turned into a murderess and was wounded for half the time, even though they weren't in the books, was the least assassinated character of these 2 fucking episodes. I think that just goes to kind of show just how awful these episodes were.
Yeah.
But
Man,
I
now
think
you're making me rethink this.
no, don't.
Nope.
All right.
Polls closed.
No.
Voting is done.
This is a recap. We're going to move on because there's a shit ton of shit to get through when we start diving into episode 4, which I know we've been at this for a long ass time already. We've been doing these episodes almost for 2 months, but we haven't even gotten past what aired on November 18th or 19th, depending on your time zone, with the premiere, which is kind of mind boggling. But we're going to get into the steaming pile of shit that is episode 4 with the next one. So I guess with that, everybody in the chat, thanks for coming out. Thanks for weighing in. We did read a lot of the comments. And yeah, hope you guys tune in for the next one, where we'll dive into the King of Gildan and Logain, all that nonsense.
And just to throw out, thank you for everybody participating on either YouTube or the Discord. It's been great. The conversations, both online, offline, in person, if you've been one of the guest rewatchers, has been really good. I know that we've all had a blast doing this, and I think we're up to almost 200 subs on the channel. So you guys, your support and coming out and subbing, viewing, commenting, all that other stuff is awesome, and we definitely don't take that for granted in terms of you guys supporting us with the channel. I mean, we're doing this because we enjoy doing it, and we think you guys enjoy it too. So thanks for all the support.
Yeah, definitely. If anybody hasn't already done so, please like, comment, and subscribe. And I know several of you are already writing your screed that my rankings were wrong. So feel free to go ahead and give us your opinion of the most to least assassinated down in the comments.
Walk in the light, everyone.